The business proposal hung in the air between them like a physical thing. Nathan Reynolds stood expectantly in the half-finished boutique space, his confident smile never wavering. He truly believed she would say yes. It had never occurred to him that she might refuse. That confidence, once so attractive to Olivia, now felt suffocating. She studied her ex-husband's face, noting how the construction lights cast harsh shadows across his still handsome features. This was the face that had once been her entire world, the man whose approval she had desperately sought for 15 years. "So," Nathan prompted, his tone betraying a hint of impatience. "It's a generous offer, Olivia. 20% investment with minimal involvement. You maintain creative control while leveraging my business connections? I'd say it's a win-win." Olivia ran her fingers along the exposed brick wall of what would soon be her flagship store. The rough texture grounded her, reminding her of her journey, how far she had come from the insecure young woman who had signed away her dreams for the privilege of being Mrs. Nathan Reynolds. "No," she said quietly, but firmly, the single syllable resonating through the empty space. Nathan blinked, the smile freezing on his face. "I'm sorry?" "I said no, Nathan. I'm not interested in your investment." Olivia met his gaze directly, something she rarely did during their marriage. "I appreciate the offer, but this is my venture. I've built it from the ground up, and that's how I intend to continue." Nathan's expression shifted from confusion to disbelief. "You can't be serious. Do you understand what I'm offering? My network alone would guarantee your success." "I understand perfectly," Olivia replied, her voice steady, "but I already have investors who believe in my vision. I don't need your help." A flicker of something dangerous passed across Nathan's face, the same expression she'd seen when business deals didn't go his way. "This is emotional, not rational. We have history. I understand that, but business is business." Olivia smiled, surprising herself with how calm she felt. "This isn't emotional, Nathan. It's the most rational decision I've made. My business plan is solid, my investor group is committed, and frankly, our business philosophies are incompatible." "See, incompatible?" Nathan's voice hardened. "What does that mean?" "It means I'm building something based on authenticity and genuine connection with my customers. Your approach has always been about acquisition and control." She gestured around the space. "This isn't just about profit margins for me. It's about creating something meaningful." Nathan straightened his tie, a gesture Olivia recognized as his way of regaining composure. "I think you're making a mistake, a serious one." "That's your right to think so," she replied evenly, "but it's my right to make my own decisions now." His eyes narrowed. "Is this some kind of revenge? Payback for the divorce?" The accusation might once have wounded her, but now Olivia found it almost amusing. "Not everything is about you, Nathan. This is about me, what I want, what I've built, what I believe in." Nathan's jaw tightened as he assessed her, seeming to truly see her for the first time. The silence stretched between them until he finally broke it with a cold laugh. "Well, well, Olivia Morgan grows a backbone. I have to say, I didn't see this coming." He paced the unfinished floor, his expensive shoes echoing on the concrete. "You know, I was trying to do you a favor. A courtesy, really. I didn't ask for favors." "No," he agreed, his voice dropping dangerously. "And now you won't get any." He stopped pacing and turned to face her. "You think you can compete in the luxury retail sector without making enemies? This isn't the safe little bubble of modeling, Olivia. This is business. My world." Olivia felt a chill at his tone but kept her expression neutral. "Are you threatening me?" "I'm educating you," Nathan replied, his smile returning, though it didn't reach his eyes. "Since you've rejected my generous offer, I'll have to pursue other opportunities in this market. It's a promising sector, after all." The implication was clear. Olivia took a deep breath, reminding herself that she was no longer the woman who trembled at Nathan's disapproval. Competition is healthy in any market. If you want to open your own boutique, feel free. Nathan's laugh was sharp. "Oh, I'll do more than that. I've been in this game a lot longer than you have, Olivia. By this time next year, you'll wish you'd taken my offer." He turned to leave, then paused at the door. "Your trust fund won't last forever. And when it runs out, don't come crying to me." After he left, Olivia stood motionless in the center of her unfinished boutique, the sound of his footsteps fading down the stairs. 2 years ago, his words would have sent her into a spiral of doubt and anxiety. But now, she felt only a steely resolve strengthening within her. Her phone buzzed with a text from Marcus Sullivan, her modeling agent, and now one of her business advisors. Meeting with fabric suppliers confirmed for 2 p.m. Good news on the Milan connection, too. Call when you can. Olivia smiled at the message. Her life was moving forward, filled with purpose and possibility. She wouldn't let Nathan's threats derail that. 3 weeks later, Olivia sat in the office of her nearly completed boutique, reviewing final inventory lists with her assistant, Sophia. The transformation of the space had been remarkable. Exposed brick softened with elegant lighting, minimalist displays highlighting carefully curated pieces, comfortable seating areas where clients could relax and be pampered. "The cashmere shipment from Scotland is delayed by 2 days, Sophia was saying, her pencil tapping against her clipboard. "But everything else is on schedule for the opening next week." 2 days is manageable, Olivia replied, making a note. "Let's make sure the website reflects the accurate availability dates." Sophia nodded, then hesitated. "There's something else. Richard Blackwell called this morning." Olivia looked up sharply. Richard was Nathan's CFO, and had been for over a decade. What did he want? He wouldn't say specifically, just that it was a matter of some urgency regarding Mr. Reynolds. Sophia glanced down at her notes. He said, and I quote, "Ms. Morgan might want to hear this before making any final business commitments." A warning? Or a trap? With Nathan, it could be either. Olivia considered ignoring the message entirely, but found herself curious. "Give me his number. I'll call him myself." Later that afternoon, Olivia sat across from Richard Blackwell in a quiet corner of a downtown cafe. The man looked uncomfortable, fidgeting with his coffee cup and glancing occasionally over his shoulder. "I appreciate you meeting me," he began, his voice low. "What I'm about to tell you could cost me my job." "Then why tell me at all?" Olivia asked, studying him carefully. Richard sighed, running a hand through his thinning hair. "Because what Nathan is planning isn't just business competition. It's deliberate sabotage." Olivia kept her expression neutral. "Go on." "He's contacting every supplier you've arranged deals with, offering them better terms to break their contracts with you. He's planning a smear campaign questioning the viability of your business model. And he's accelerating plans to open his own boutique chain. Direct competition, but with much deeper pockets." Olivia absorbed this information, feeling a curious lack of surprise. It was exactly the kind of ruthless strategy Nathan had always employed against competitors. The only difference was that now she was the target. "Why are you telling me this, Richard? You've been loyal to Nathan for years." Richard stared into his coffee. "I've watched Nathan destroy countless businesses, but this is different. This is personal for him. Vindictive." He looked up, meeting her eyes. "And frankly, I've always respected you, Olivia. The way you've rebuilt your life after the divorce. It's impressive." Olivia considered her next words carefully. "Thank you for the warning. But may I ask, is there something else going on with Nathan? This level of vendetta seems extreme, even for him." Richard hesitated, then lowered his voice further. "There are financial concerns, issues with the offshore accounts, and Victoria's spending has become excessive, even by Nathan's standards. The marriage is strained." Interesting. Nathan's perfect new life was showing cracks. But Olivia felt no satisfaction at the news, only a distant pity for the man who couldn't see what truly mattered in life. "I should go," Richard said, checking his watch. "Nathan has a shareholders' meeting at 4. As he stood to leave, Olivia asked one final question. "Why does he care so much about stopping me, Richard?" There are dozens of more significant competitors in the market. Richard paused, considering his answer. I think he can't stand that you're succeeding without him, that you didn't need him after all. After Richard left, Olivia remained at the cafe, watching people pass by on the street outside. Her phone buzzed with messages about fabric samples and marketing plans, but she allowed herself a moment of stillness. Nathan was coming after her business, using every trick and connection at his disposal. 2 years ago, she might have folded under the pressure. The Olivia who had left their marriage with 2 suitcases and a shattered sense of self would have seen this as confirmation of her inadequacy. But that woman was gone. In her place stood someone stronger, a woman who had rebuilt herself piece by piece, who had found value in her own vision and abilities. Nathan could try his worst. She would be ready. The grand opening of Olivia Morgan Collection was scheduled for 7 o'clock on a crisp October evening. By 6, a line had already formed outside the West Village boutique. Women of various ages drawn by the promise of a shopping experience designed specifically for them. Inside, Olivia moved through the space making final adjustments, straightening a silk scarf here, repositioning a display there. The transformation from raw construction site to elegant boutique was complete, and the result exceeded even her expectations. It's perfect, Marcus Sullivan said, appearing beside her. The modeling agent who had helped relaunch her career was now an investor and advisor in her retail venture. Are you ready for this? Olivia took a deep breath, smoothing the emerald green dress she'd chosen for the occasion. As ready as I'll ever be. The doors opened, and for the next 3 hours, the boutique buzzed with energy. Women tried on clothes, consultants offered personalized styling advice, champagne flowed, and through it all, Olivia moved gracefully from group to group, explaining her vision, listening to feedback, making connections. This cashmere feels divine, one customer exclaimed, running her fingers over a sweater. And the cut actually flatters my shoulders instead of making me look boxy. That's the whole point, Olivia replied with a smile. Beautiful, quality pieces designed for real women's bodies, not just for runway models. By the end of the evening, sales had exceeded projections by 30%. As the last customers reluctantly departed, the staff gathered for a celebratory toast. To Olivia, Marcus said, raising his glass, and to the most successful boutique opening I've seen in a decade. Amid the applause, Olivia felt a surge of pride. This moment, this achievement, belonged entirely to her. Not to Nathan Reynolds' ex-wife, but to Olivia Morgan, entrepreneur. The glow of the successful launch carried her through the following weeks, as the boutique established itself as a destination for discerning shoppers. Reviews praised the personalized experience, the quality of the merchandise, and, particularly, Olivia's hands-on approach to customer service. But clouds were gathering on the horizon. First came the call from her Italian leather supplier. I am so sorry, Ms. Morgan, the man said, his accent thickening with discomfort. We cannot fulfill your next order as scheduled. Why not? Olivia asked, frowning. We have a contract, yes, but there have been complications. Another buyer has offered to purchase our entire season's production at a premium. The company directors have decided to accept. Olivia didn't need to ask who the other buyer was. I see. And the penalty clause in our contract? They are prepared to pay it, the supplier admitted reluctantly. Similar calls followed. The Scottish cashmere mill, the French silk producer, even the local packaging company. One by one, suppliers were breaking contracts, willing to pay penalties rather than refuse Nathan's more lucrative offers. Then came the article in a prominent business magazine questioning the viability of niche boutique concepts like hers in the current retail climate. The piece didn't mention Olivia by name, but cited industry insiders who predicted failure for upstart ventures without sufficient capital reserves. A week later, Nathan announced the imminent opening of Renoir, a luxury boutique chain targeting sophisticated mature women. with locations planned in New York, Chicago, Los Angeles, and Miami, the exact cities where Olivia planned to expand. "He's trying to strangle us before we can grow," Olivia told Marcus during an emergency meeting in her office. "Cut off our supply chain, undermine our credibility, and position himself as the established alternative." Marcus nodded grimly. "Classic predatory tactics. He's willing to operate at a loss initially just to drive you out of business." Olivia stared out the window at the bustling New York street below. "We need to find new suppliers. Immediately. Smaller ones that Reynolds Enterprises hasn't reached yet. I have contacts in Portugal and Japan," Marcus offered. "Not the established luxury houses, but skilled artisans looking to break into the American market." "Perfect," Olivia said. "We'll position it as exclusive limited edition collections. And we need to accelerate our online strategy. Nathan may control brick-and-mortar retail space, but the internet is still a level playing field." That night, alone in her Tribeca loft, Olivia found herself standing before the full-length mirror, studying her reflection. At 48, her face showed lines of experience, laugh lines around her eyes, a slight softening of her jawline. Her caramel-colored hair fell in gentle waves past her shoulders, and her green eyes held a depth and confidence that hadn't been there during her marriage. "He won't win this time," she told her reflection, the quiet declaration both a promise and a reminder. The doorbell rang, startling her from her thoughts. It was nearly midnight, far too late for casual visitors. Checking the security camera, Olivia was surprised to see Victoria Reynolds standing in the hallway, looking uncharacteristically disheveled. Cautiously, Olivia opened the door. "Victoria, what are you doing here?" Nathan's wife, still technically his wife, though rumor had it they were living separate lives, stood uncomfortably in the doorway. Her designer outfit was slightly rumpled, and her makeup couldn't quite hide the redness around her eyes. "May I come in?" she asked, her usual confident tone replaced by something more vulnerable. Olivia hesitated, then stepped aside. Whatever this was about, it wasn't a conversation to have in a hallway. Victoria moved into the apartment, her eyes widening slightly as she took in the spacious loft with its tasteful decor. "Nice place," she said, running a manicured finger along the back of Olivia's sofa. "The trust fund is serving you well." Olivia chose not to respond to the barb. "Would you like some tea? Or something stronger?" "Vodka, if you have it," Victoria replied, sinking onto the sofa. "Neat." After pouring the drinks, vodka for Victoria, a sparkling water for herself, Olivia sat in the armchair opposite her unexpected guest. "So, why are you here?" Victoria took a long sip before answering. "To warn you, I suppose. Though why I'm bothering, I don't know." She gave a brittle laugh. "Maybe it's female solidarity. Or maybe I just want to see the look on his face when his plans fall apart." "Nathan's plans," Olivia clarified. "To destroy my business." Victoria nodded. "It's become an obsession. I've never seen him like this, not even during the most aggressive corporate takeovers." She leaned forward, lowering her voice conspiratorially. "But here's what you don't know. He's overextended. The new boutique chain, the supplier contracts, the marketing campaign, he's pouring money into it like water. Money we don't actually have right now." Olivia frowned. "That doesn't make sense. Reynolds Enterprises is worth—" "Reynolds Enterprises is doing fine," Victoria interrupted. "But Nathan's personal finances are another story. My shopping habits aren't exactly economical, and Nathan's been making some questionable investments lately. Plus, there's the little matter of the tax audit." "Tax audit?" Victoria waved a hand dismissively. "Those offshore accounts Richard manages. Apparently, there are some discrepancies the IRS has questions about." "Why are you telling me this, Victoria? We've never exactly been friends." Victoria studied her glass for a moment. "No, we haven't. But I'm not the villain in this story, Olivia. I didn't steal your husband. I just accepted what he offered." She looked up, meeting Olivia's gaze directly. "And now I find myself in a similar position to where you were 2 years ago, married to a man who sees me as an asset, not a partner. Olivia felt an unexpected surge of sympathy. Victoria might have been the other woman, but she was also, in her way, another of Nathan's victims. What are you going to do? A slow smile spread across Victoria's face, transforming her from vulnerable to predatory in an instant. I'm going to take him for everything I can get. The prenup has a fidelity clause, and let's just say I have evidence that Nathan hasn't been faithful. The revelation surprised Olivia less than it might have once. Nathan's pattern was becoming clear, using people until they no longer served his purposes, then discarding them. There's more, Victoria continued, reaching into her designer handbag and withdrawing a slim flash drive, financial records, emails, strategy documents for the campaign against your business, including some things that wouldn't look good to the IRS or possibly even the SEC. Consider it an insurance policy. Olivia stared at the flash drive Victoria had placed on the coffee table between them. Why would you give me this? Because I want out with my share, and I don't want Nathan coming after me the way he's coming after you. Victoria finished her vodka and stood. Use it if you need to, or don't. But know that his vendetta against you has made him sloppy. And in business, sloppy is dangerous. After Victoria left, Olivia sat for a long time staring at the flash drive. Using it felt like descending to Nathan's level of underhanded tactics. But not using it meant fighting an uphill battle against an opponent willing to burn everything down just to see her fail. Her phone chimed with a text from Marcus, Japanese textile maker on board. Meeting tomorrow to finalize details. The message reminded her that she had options beyond Nathan's scorched earth approach. Her business could survive and even thrive by being nimble, authentic, and innovative. All qualities Nathan's corporate behemoth lacked. She tucked the flash drive into her desk drawer. A last resort, nothing more. The following week brought both challenges and unexpected opportunities. 3 more suppliers canceled contracts, forcing Olivia to scramble for alternatives. But the exclusive Japanese textiles and Portuguese leatherwork began arriving, generating excitement among customers who appreciated the unique, limited edition offerings. These pieces tell a story, Olivia explained to a journalist, writing a feature on boutique retail trends. Each one represents a collaboration with artisans who bring generations of craftsmanship to their work. That's something mass production can never replicate. The article, when published, positioned Olivia Morgan Collection as a pioneer in slow luxury, a thoughtful alternative to the disposable fashion culture. Orders through the website increased dramatically, particularly from regions where Olivia had no physical presence. Meanwhile, the opening of Nathan's first Renoir boutique was delayed by permit issues, then by construction problems. Rumors circulated in the business community about cash flow concerns and investor hesitation. Still, Nathan pressed forward, his determination to crush Olivia's venture seemingly undiminished. The confrontation Olivia had been both expecting and dreading came on a rainy Tuesday afternoon. She was meeting with a potential new supplier when her assistant, Sophia, appeared in the doorway, her expression tense. I'm sorry to interrupt, but Mr. Reynolds is here. He's quite insistent on seeing you. Olivia excused herself from the meeting and found Nathan waiting in her office, examining the framed photo on her desk. A picture of Olivia at the boutique's opening, surrounded by her team. Playing the happy entrepreneur, he remarked without turning around. It's a convincing performance. It's not a performance, Nathan. Olivia closed the door behind her. What do you want? He turned then, and Olivia was struck by how tired he looked. There were new lines around his eyes, and his usually immaculate appearance showed subtle signs of strain. A slightly rumpled shirt collar, hair not quite perfectly styled. I want you to be reasonable, he said, his tone softer than she expected. This rivalry is becoming destructive for both of us. The smart play would be to consolidate our efforts. You mean, let you absorb my business? Nathan spread his hands in a gesture of innocence. I'm talking about a merger, not a takeover. Your vision, my resources, We could build something significant together. The offer was almost identical to the one he'd made in her unfinished boutique space months earlier, but the context had shifted dramatically. Then, he'd been confident, even arrogant. Now, there was a hint of desperation beneath the smooth proposal. "The answer is still no, Nathan," Olivia said firmly, "but I think we both know this isn't really about business strategy. It's about control, your need for it, my refusal to give it." Something flickered in Nathan's eyes. Anger, perhaps, or recognition. "You've changed, Olivia. I'm not sure it's for the better." "I disagree," she replied simply. "But my life and my choices aren't yours to judge anymore. They haven't been since the day you decided our marriage was disposable." Nathan's facade cracked slightly. "Is that what this is about? Punishment for the divorce?" "No," Olivia said, and meant it. "This is about me building something I believe in. Your approval or disapproval is irrelevant." The words hung between them, a final declaration of independence. For a moment, Olivia thought Nathan might argue further, but instead he merely nodded, as if accepting a difficult truth. "We'll see how long that confidence lasts when Renoir opens next month," he said, moving toward the door. "The market isn't big enough for both of us, Olivia." "Then may the best business model win," she replied, holding his gaze steadily until he looked away. After he left, Olivia returned to her supplier meeting, apologizing for the interruption. But her mind kept returning to Nathan's appearance, the subtle signs of strain, and what Victoria had told her about his financial situation. Was it possible that Nathan Reynolds, the business titan who had once seemed invincible to her, was actually vulnerable? And if so, what did that mean for her own venture's future? The grand opening of Renoir was scheduled for a Thursday evening in November. Despite the rumors of financial difficulties, Nathan had spared no expense. The Madison Avenue location was prime real estate, the interior design opulent, and the guest list included fashion editors, influencers, and society figures. According to industry gossip, he had invested over $10 million in the launch, positioning the boutique chain as the definitive luxury shopping experience for discerning women. Olivia received no invitation, of course, but that didn't stop images from the event flooding her social media feeds. Victoria was notably absent from the photographs. Instead, Nathan was pictured with a succession of models and celebrities, all smiling brightly for the cameras. The business press covered the opening extensively, with several articles making unfavorable comparisons to smaller, less established boutiques. Thinly veiled references to Olivia Morgan collection. "He's pulling out all the stops," Marcus commented, as they reviewed the coverage together in Olivia's office the following morning. "That kind of launch burns through cash like nothing else." Olivia nodded, studying a photograph of Nathan cutting a ceremonial ribbon. Despite his polished smile, she could see tension in his posture. "It's not sustainable. He's betting everything on making a big splash and drowning us in the process." But two could play the publicity game. While Nathan courted the traditional fashion media, Olivia focused on building authentic connections with real women. She launched a series of Evening with Olivia events, intimate gatherings where customers could discuss their fashion needs directly with her, share stories, and preview upcoming collections. These events quickly gained a devoted following. Women appreciated being heard, rather than simply marketed to, and word spread through personal recommendations, the most valuable form of advertising. "What makes your boutique different from places like Renoir?" a customer asked during one such evening, cradling a glass of wine. Olivia considered the question carefully. "At Renoir, you're buying an image. Someone else's idea of what a sophisticated woman should look like. Here, we start with you, your body, your life, your needs, and build a wardrobe that helps you feel confident being exactly who you are." The answer resonated with the group, generating nods of appreciation and subsequent sales. But more importantly, it crystallized something Olivia had been feeling since the beginning of her venture. This wasn't just about clothes or even success. It was about creating a space where women could celebrate rather than disguise their authentic selves. As winter descended on New York, the retail landscape settled into a pattern. Renoir attracted attention with splashy advertising campaigns and celebrity endorsements, while Olivia Morgan Collection built a loyal customer base through personal connection and word of mouth. Both businesses appeared to be thriving, though industry insiders whispered about the high operating costs of Nathan's venture compared to its actual revenue. Then came the anonymous email. Olivia was working late one evening, finalizing plans for the Chicago location set to open in the spring, when a message arrived from an encrypted address. Reynolds Enterprises in financial trouble. IRS investigation ongoing. Check public records for property liens. This information could be valuable to the right investor. The message contained no signature, but Olivia had her suspicions about its source. Victoria had been conspicuously absent from public view lately, and rumors of her divorce filing were circulating in social circles. Following the email's suggestion, Olivia had her lawyer investigate. The findings were startling. Multiple properties owned by Nathan personally, not by Reynolds Enterprises, had indeed been placed under lien, including the Hamptons mansion and the Manhattan penthouse. Additionally, court records revealed that Victoria had filed for divorce, citing infidelity and financial misconduct. "He's over-leveraged," Olivia's financial advisor explained during an urgent consultation. "Between the divorce, the tax issues, and the aggressive expansion of Renoir, he's stretched too thin. If Victoria gets what she's asking for in the settlement, he could face a serious liquidity crisis." Olivia absorbed this information with mixed emotions. Part of her, a small, vindictive part she wasn't proud of, felt satisfaction at Nathan's predicament. He had left her with nothing 2 years ago, confident in his power and control. Now the tables were turning, but the larger part of her felt a strange detachment, as if Nathan's problems belonged to another lifetime. "What does this mean for us?" she asked, focusing on the practical implications. "It could mean opportunity," her advisor replied. "If Reynolds needs to liquidate assets quickly, the Renoir chain might be available at a discount. Alternatively, we could simply wait it out. If Renoir fails, your boutique will be perfectly positioned to fill the market gap." That night, alone in her loft, Olivia found herself staring at the flash drive Victoria had given her months earlier. She had never used its contents, preferring to compete on her own terms rather than through Nathan's methods of underhanded tactics. Now, with Nathan potentially facing financial ruin, the drive seemed both more powerful and less necessary. Her phone rang, interrupting her thoughts. The number was unfamiliar. "Hello? Olivia. It's Richard Blackwell." Nathan's CFO sounded tense, his voice lower than usual. "We need to talk. Not over the phone. Can you meet me tomorrow morning? It's urgent." The meeting place was a small park near the financial district. Richard was already waiting when Olivia arrived, sitting on a bench with a coffee cup clutched in his hands, despite the December chill. "Thank you for coming," he said as she sat beside him. "I'm taking a significant risk just being seen with you." "What's this about, Richard?" He took a deep breath. "Nathan's in trouble. Serious trouble. The IRS investigation has expanded to include potential securities fraud. The divorce is draining his liquid assets, and Renoir is hemorrhaging money." He turned to face her directly. "He's desperate, Olivia, and desperate people do desperate things." "What kind of things?" "He's planning to sue you for intellectual property theft, claiming you stole the boutique concept from preliminary work done during your marriage. It's baseless, of course, but the legal fees alone could cripple your operation while you fight it." Olivia felt cold that had nothing to do with the winter air. "Why would you warn me about this? You're still his CFO." Richard looked away. "Because I'm also facing potential charges if this investigation goes badly. And because—" he hesitated. "I remember how he treated you during the divorce. It wasn't right. What are you suggesting I do with this information?" "Protect yourself," he said simply. "And if you have anything that might encourage Nathan to back off." Now, would be the time to use it. The flash drive. Victoria's insurance policy. Back at her office, Olivia called an emergency meeting with her legal team. While the intellectual property lawsuit was indeed baseless, as Richard had said, fighting it would be expensive and distracting at a crucial time in her business's expansion. "We have two options," her lawyer explained. "We can prepare to fight this aggressively in court, which will cost time and money, or we can try to negotiate a settlement." "What leverage would we have in a negotiation?" Olivia asked. The lawyer spread his hands. "That depends. Do you have anything that might persuade Mr. Reynolds to reconsider his approach?" Olivia thought of the flash drive sitting in her desk drawer. Possibly. That afternoon, she sat in her office composing an email to Nathan. The message was simple: a request for a private meeting to discuss matters of mutual concern. She attached a single file from the flash drive, an email chain discussing tax evasion strategies that would be of great interest to the IRS investigators. Nathan's response came within the hour. "Tomorrow, noon, my office." Reynolds Enterprises occupied 3 floors of a gleaming midtown skyscraper, a physical manifestation of Nathan's success and power. As Olivia was escorted through the executive floor the following day, she noted subtle changes since her last visit years ago. The artwork seemed less impressive, the furnishings slightly dated. The company was still successful, but perhaps the edges were fraying. Nathan's corner office, however, remained as imposing as ever, with floor-to-ceiling windows offering panoramic views of the city. He stood as she entered, his expression unreadable. "Olivia, have a seat." She sat across from his massive desk, maintaining eye contact. Gone was the woman who would have lowered her gaze in his presence. "I understand you're planning to sue me," she said without preamble. Nathan's mouth tightened. "I see Richard has been talking out of school. Does it matter how I know? The question is why you would pursue something so obviously without merit." "Merit is determined by the courts," Nathan replied coldly. "And the resulting publicity wouldn't do your boutique any favors, regardless of the outcome. So this is about damage, not justice." Olivia nodded. "That's what I thought." "What do you want, Olivia?" Nathan leaned forward. "You didn't come here to discuss legal strategies. I want you to withdraw the lawsuit before it's filed and to end your campaign against my business. No more poaching suppliers, no more negative press, no more predatory competition." Nathan laughed, though the sound held no humor. "And why would I agree to that?" "Because I have this." Olivia placed a copy of the flash drive on his desk. "And because I believe the IRS and SEC would find its contents extremely interesting." The color drained from Nathan's face as he stared at the small device. "Where did you get that? Does it matter?" "What matters is that I haven't used it yet. I've built my business honestly, Nathan. I'd prefer to keep competing that way, without underhanded tactics from either side." Nathan picked up the flash drive, his expression shifting between anger and calculation. "Victoria," he said finally, "she gave you this." Olivia neither confirmed nor denied, keeping her expression neutral. Nathan leaned back in his chair, studying her with new eyes. "You know, I underestimated you from the beginning. When we met, when we married, when we divorced, I always thought I was the one with the power, the vision." "You were wrong," Olivia said simply. "Evidently." He set the flash drive down carefully. "So this is blackmail. I prefer to think of it as a negotiated cessation of hostilities. You stop trying to destroy me. I keep this information private. We both continue to operate our businesses according to their own merits." Nathan was silent for a long moment, visibly calculating his options. Finally, he nodded. "The lawsuit will be withdrawn. The supplier contracts will be honored without interference. Renoir and Olivia Morgan Collection will compete fairly in the marketplace." "Thank you," Olivia said, rising to leave. She had gotten what she came for. "It won't save you, you know," Nathan called as she reached the door. "Renoir will still outperform your boutique. I'll still win in the end." Olivia turned back, meeting his gaze one last time. "This isn't about winning or losing, Nathan. It's about building something meaningful, something that matters." She smiled slightly. "But for what it's worth, I don't think you will win. Your approach is outdated. Women don't want to be told who they should be anymore. They want to be seen and valued for who they already are." As she left Reynolds Enterprises and stepped into the crisp winter air, Olivia felt a weight lifting from her shoulders. The confrontation with Nathan had been necessary, but it also felt like closing a chapter. Her future, and her business's future, would no longer be defined by her past relationship with him. That evening, she received a brief email from Richard Blackwell. Lawsuit cancelled. N. In closed-door meetings with lawyers all afternoon. Thought you should know. She had won this battle, but the war for her business's survival was far from over. Nathan might have agreed to compete fairly, but he was still a formidable opponent with decades of business experience and significant resources at his disposal. Renoir's lavish marketing campaigns continued, and the second location opened in Chicago as planned. Yet, as winter turned to spring, an interesting pattern emerged. Despite the glamorous advertising and celebrity endorsements, Renoir struggled to retain customers. Women came once for the experience, but often didn't return. Meanwhile, Olivia's boutique maintained a steady growth trajectory, with high customer retention and increasing word-of-mouth referrals. "The numbers don't lie," Marcus observed during their quarterly review. "Our average customer makes 3 purchases within the first 6 months. Renoir's ratio is barely above 1. That's because we're building relationships, not just processing transactions," Olivia replied. "Our customers feel understood here." The contrast between the two approaches became even more apparent when a prominent fashion magazine ran a feature comparing luxury boutique experiences. The anonymous reviewer praised Renoir's impressive aesthetic and extensive selection, but noted that the experience feels oddly impersonal despite the attentive staff. In contrast, Olivia Morgan collection was described as a revelation, a shopping experience that feels like a conversation with a stylish friend who actually listens. Nathan, predictably, was furious about the comparison. According to Richard, who continued to provide occasional updates, he had demanded a marketing overhaul and fired the boutique's general manager. But the fundamental problem couldn't be fixed with better advertising or new management. It was built into the very concept of Renoir, which treated women as walking wallets, rather than individuals with unique needs and preferences. By April, rumors began circulating that Renoir was scaling back its ambitious expansion plans. The Miami location opening was delayed indefinitely, and the Los Angeles store, open barely 2 months, reduced its hours of operation. Olivia, meanwhile, prepared for the grand opening of her Chicago boutique, secure in the knowledge that she was creating something sustainable, a business built on genuine connection rather than manipulation and flash. Whatever happened with Nathan and Renoir, she had already succeeded in the most important way. She had remained true to herself and her vision. And in the world of business, as in life, authenticity was ultimately the most valuable currency of all. The Chicago boutique opening exceeded all expectations. Located in a historic building on Michigan Avenue, the second Olivia Morgan collection location captured the essence of its New York predecessor while incorporating unique elements reflecting the Chicago aesthetic. Local artists had been commissioned to create installations, and the store layout featured comfortable nooks where customers could sit and discuss their style needs with consultants. "This is exactly what I've been looking for," one woman commented during the opening reception, running her hand along a silk blouse displayed on a vintage mannequin. "A place that doesn't make me feel invisible just because I'm over 40. The sentiment was echoed throughout the evening as women of various ages, body types, and backgrounds explored the boutique. Olivia moved among them, listening to their stories and feedback, making mental notes for future collections. This personal touch, her genuine interest in her customers, had become the hallmark of her brand. By midnight, when the last guests departed, sales had surpassed the New York opening by 20%. The Chicago team, carefully selected and trained in Olivia's customer-centered approach, gathered for a celebratory toast. "To authentic luxury," Olivia said, raising her glass, "and to all of you who make it possible." As she returned to her hotel that night, Olivia felt a profound sense of accomplishment. 2 years ago, she had been starting over with nothing but her trust fund and a fragile sense of self-worth. Now she was expanding a successful business built on her own terms, creating spaces where women felt valued and understood. The Chicago Tribune's style section ran a feature the following week: Morgan's Boutique Revolution: How One Woman is Redefining Luxury Retail. The article praised the personalized shopping experience and highlighted Olivia's journey from model to entrepreneur. More significantly, it positioned Olivia Morgan Collection as the antithesis to corporate luxury chains that treat customers as wallets rather than individuals, a thinly veiled reference to Renoir. The contrast between the two businesses became increasingly stark over the following months. While Olivia's boutiques maintained steady growth, Renoir's initial splash began to fade. Industry reports indicated that Nathan's chain was struggling with high overhead costs and disappointing customer retention. The Los Angeles location closed after just 4 months, and plans for additional stores were quietly shelved. Then came the news that shook the retail world. Reynolds Enterprises announced it was seeking a strategic partner for Renoir, corporate language for a buyer to take the failing venture off their hands. "He's cutting his losses," Marcus observed when the press release crossed his desk. "The question is, what does this mean for us?" Olivia considered the implications. "It means we were right. Our approach is more sustainable in the long run. Authentic connections beat flashy marketing every time." But Nathan wasn't going down without one final attempt to salvage both his investment and his pride. 3 days after the announcement, Olivia received an unexpected call from his office requesting a meeting. "What could he possibly want now?" she asked Richard during one of their occasional off-the-record conversations. Richard sighed heavily. "He wants to offer you Renoir, at a discount, of course, positioned as a merger to save face. But the reality is, he needs to offload it before the quarterly financials become public." The irony wasn't lost on Olivia. After trying to destroy her business, Nathan now wanted her to rescue his failing venture. "And if I refuse? He'll sell to whoever makes an offer, even at a loss. But he'd rather it be you than a complete outsider. Pride, I suppose." The meeting took place at a neutral location, a private dining room at an upscale restaurant in Midtown Manhattan. Nathan was already seated when Olivia arrived, studying financial documents spread across the table. He looked up as she entered, and she was struck by how much he had aged in the months since their confrontation in his office. The confident, almost predatory businessman who had once intimidated her seemed diminished somehow. "Olivia," he said, rising briefly, "thank you for coming." She took the seat across from him. Richard indicated this was important. Nathan nodded, gathering the papers into a neat stack. "I'll be direct. Renoir isn't performing as projected. The overhead is excessive, and customer retention is below acceptable levels." "I'm aware," Olivia replied neutrally. "The industry reports have been quite detailed." A flash of irritation crossed Nathan's face at her calm acknowledgement of his failure, but he pressed on. "I'm proposing a strategic consolidation of our brands. Olivia Morgan Collection would acquire Renoir at a significant discount, preserving the locations and infrastructure while implementing your approach to customer engagement." Olivia allowed herself a small smile at his careful wording. What he meant, of course, was that she had been right all along about what women wanted from a luxury retail experience. "That's an interesting proposal," she said, keeping her tone professional. "May I see the financials?" Nathan pushed the stack of documents toward her. Olivia spent several minutes reviewing the numbers. Her business acumen, developed over the past 2 years through intensive study and practical experience, allowing her to quickly assess the situation. Renoir was not merely underperforming, it was actively losing money. The Chicago location was barely breaking even, while the New York flagship was operating at a significant deficit due to its exorbitant rent and oversized staff. The merchandise itself wasn't moving, with inventory turnover rates far below industry standards. "These numbers are worse than I expected," Olivia said finally, looking up from the papers. Nathan's jaw tightened. "The concept is sound. The execution needs refinement." "The concept is flawed," Olivia corrected gently. "You built a business based on telling women who they should be instead of serving who they actually are. That fundamental disconnect can't be fixed with better marketing or cost-cutting." For a moment, Nathan's mask of professional detachment slipped, revealing a glimpse of the anger and frustration beneath. "If you're not interested in the acquisition, just say so." Olivia considered her options carefully. Purchasing Renoir would give her instant access to premium retail locations that would otherwise take years to secure. The infrastructure, inventory systems, supplier relationships, trained staff could be valuable if properly redirected, but the price would need to reflect the reality of what she was buying: locations and equipment, not a viable business model. "I might be interested," she said finally, "but not at the price you're suggesting. The Renoir brand has no value to me. In fact, it's a liability given its current reputation. What I'd be purchasing is essentially real estate and fixtures." Nathan looked as if he might argue, but then seemed to deflate slightly. "What would you consider a fair offer?" Olivia named a figure that was 40% of what Nathan had initially proposed, a fraction of his investment in the venture, but still a significant sum for her growing company. "That's my best offer, Nathan. Take it or leave it." Their eyes locked across the table, and for a moment Olivia saw a flicker of the old Nathan, calculating, ruthless, accustomed to winning. Then, surprisingly, he nodded. "I'll have the lawyers draw up the papers. I want this closed by the end of the month." As they rose to leave, Nathan paused, studying her with an expression she couldn't quite read. "You've changed," he said finally. "Become harder." "Not harder," Olivia corrected. "Stronger. There's a difference." "Is there?" Nathan asked, seeming genuinely curious. "Hardness breaks under pressure," she explained. "Strength bends, but endures. I've learned to be flexible without compromising my core values. That's something your business model never understood." Nathan absorbed this, then nodded slightly as if conceding the point. "For what it's worth," he said as they walked toward the door, "I underestimated you. Completely." It wasn't an apology. Nathan Reynolds didn't apologize, but it was perhaps as close as he would ever come to acknowledging his misjudgment. The acquisition was finalized 2 weeks later, making headlines in the business press. "Morgan acquires Renoir, fashion's new power player." The articles noted the rapid rise of Olivia Morgan from model to retail entrepreneur, with several business analysts praising her strategic vision in consolidating the luxury boutique market. What the press didn't report, because few people knew, was the state of Nathan's personal finances following the deal. The combination of the failed Renoir venture, Victoria's divorce settlement, and the ongoing tax issues had left him in a precarious position. According to Richard, who had quietly accepted a position as CFO of Olivia Morgan Collection following the acquisition, Nathan had been forced to sell several personal assets, including the Manhattan penthouse. "He's keeping up appearances," Richard explained, during a strategy meeting in Olivia's newly expanded office suite. "Reynolds Enterprises is still profitable, though not as dominant as before. But personally, he's struggling." Olivia absorbed this information without the satisfaction she might once have expected to feel. Nathan's downfall, while partially self-inflicted, wasn't something she took pleasure in. They had both moved beyond the personal vendetta that had initially driven their business rivalry. "What's he doing now?" she asked, more out of curiosity than concern. "Living in a company apartment, from what I hear. Victoria got the Hamptons house in the settlement, and he's focusing on rebuilding his personal portfolio through new investments." The next phase of Olivia's business strategy was already taking shape. The former Renoir locations would be renovated and rebranded as Olivia Morgan Collection boutiques, maintaining their premium positioning but completely reimagining the customer experience to align with her philosophy of authentic luxury. "We'll need to retrain the staff entirely," she told her management team during the transition planning session. The Renoir approach was about selling to customers. Our approach is about connecting with them. The New York location would be the first to undergo the transformation, closing for 6 weeks of intensive renovation. Olivia worked closely with the designers, insisting on creating spaces that felt both elegant and welcoming. Boutiques where women could explore at their own pace without pressure or judgment. One evening, as Olivia was reviewing fabric samples in the emptied Renoir flagship store, she received an unexpected visitor. Victoria Reynolds, or Victoria Chambers, as she had reverted to her maiden name following the divorce, stood in the doorway, elegant as ever in a designer suit that emphasized her still youthful figure. "I heard you bought Nathan's failed experiment," she said by way of greeting, stepping into the space and surveying the demolition in progress. "Smart move." Olivia set aside her work. It made business sense. The locations were valuable, even if the concept wasn't. Victoria nodded, running a manicured finger along a partially dismantled display case. "Did you use the information I gave you? The flash drive?" "Only enough to get him to back off," Olivia admitted. "I didn't want to destroy him, just protect what I was building." "More merciful than I would have been," Victoria remarked with a slight smile. "But then, I was never the better person in our little triangle." Olivia studied the woman who had once been her rival. There was a new quality to Victoria, a hint of vulnerability beneath the polished exterior that made her seem more human somehow. "What will you do now? After the divorce?" Victoria shrugged elegantly. "Travel. Enjoy my settlement. Maybe start a small business of my own. Nothing as ambitious as this, of course, but something that's mine." She paused, meeting Olivia's gaze directly. "That's what I admire about what you've done here. It's completely yours. Your vision. Your creation." It was perhaps the most genuine thing Victoria had ever said to her, and Olivia found herself responding to that authenticity. "If you ever want advice about starting a business, I'd be happy to help." Victoria looked surprised, then thoughtful. "I might take you up on that. Not that we're friends." "No," Olivia agreed with a small smile, "but maybe we're not enemies anymore either." After Victoria left, Olivia returned to her work, but her thoughts kept returning to how dramatically her life had changed. 2 years ago, both Nathan and Victoria had seemed like all-powerful figures whose actions had shattered her world. Now she could see them clearly, just people, with their own flaws and struggles, neither as intimidating nor as important to her future as they had once appeared. The realization was liberating. She had not only rebuilt her life, but had transcended the narrative of victimhood that could have defined her after the divorce. Instead, she had written a new story, one in which she was the protagonist, not just a supporting character in someone else's drama. As summer turned to fall, the renovated boutiques opened one by one, each launch more successful than the last. The fashion press chronicled the Morgan method of retail, highlighting the personalized experience and the focus on making women feel seen and valued regardless of age or body type. "What's next for Olivia Morgan Collection?" a reporter asked during an interview for a major fashion magazine. "You've conquered New York and Chicago, transformed the former Renoir locations. What's your ultimate vision?" Olivia considered the question carefully. "I don't think in terms of conquering or dominating," she said finally. "I'm building something that reflects my values, a business that treats both employees and customers with respect, that celebrates women as they are rather than pushing them to be something they're not. Success, for me, isn't measured by how many locations we have, or even by profit margins, though those matter. It's measured by the difference we make in women's lives." It was an unconventional answer in the cutthroat world of luxury retail, but it resonated with readers. The article, when published, positioned Olivia as a new kind of business leader, one who combined sharp business acumen with genuine empathy and a clear sense of purpose. As the year drew to a close, Olivia found herself in a reflective mood. The journey from devastated ex-wife to successful entrepreneur had been challenging, but it had also revealed strengths she hadn't known she possessed. She had discovered not just a talent for business, but a capacity for resilience that continued to surprise her. And though she would never have chosen the pain of her divorce and the subsequent struggle, she had come to recognize that those experiences had forced her to grow in ways that comfort never could have. Nathan had meant to break her when he left her with nothing. Instead, he had inadvertently set her free to become more fully herself than she had ever been during their marriage. The realization wasn't bitter or triumphant, just a quiet acknowledgement of how life's most difficult moments sometimes led to unexpected gifts. And as Olivia reviewed the plans for the coming year, expansion into international markets, a new accessory line, philanthropic initiatives supporting women entrepreneurs, she felt a profound gratitude for the journey that had brought her to this moment of hard-won peace and purpose. The following spring brought unexpected news that reverberated through New York's business community. The historic Reynolds Mansion in the Hamptons, a symbol of wealth and status for generations, was being listed for sale. The sprawling estate, with its manicured gardens and private beach access, had been the site of legendary social gatherings during the years of Olivia and Nathan's marriage. Now, according to real estate listings, it was available for the first time in 3 decades at an asking price of $25 million. Olivia learned of the listing during a meeting with her financial advisors, who had been helping her manage the increasingly complex portfolio of her growing business. "It's a significant property," her wealth manager noted, scrolling through the listing on his tablet. "Prime location, impeccable provenance, recently renovated. Given your company's current valuation and liquid assets, it would be a reasonable investment if you were interested in high-end real estate." Olivia studied the photos, memories flooding back, summer weekends hosting Nathan's business associates, charity events in the grand ballroom, quiet mornings in the sunroom overlooking the Atlantic. The mansion had never felt like home to her. It had been Nathan's showcase, a stage where she played her part as the perfect wife. Yet seeing it now stirred complicated emotions. "Wasn't this awarded to Victoria in the divorce settlement?" she asked, recalling Richard's updates about Nathan's personal financial troubles. "It was," her advisor confirmed. "Apparently, she's decided to liquidate. The rumor is she's relocating to Europe permanently." Olivia closed the tablet, intending to dismiss the subject. The Hamptons mansion belonged to her past, not her future. Yet, throughout the day, her thoughts kept returning to the property, not from nostalgia, but from a growing sense that its sale represented something significant, the final chapter of a story that had shaped so much of her life. That evening, alone in her Tribeca loft, she reopened the listing on her laptop, examining the familiar rooms now staged with anonymous luxury furniture, rather than the antiques Nathan had so proudly collected. The estate agent's description emphasized the timeless elegance and incomparable craftsmanship of the 1920s mansion. What it didn't mention was the history contained within those walls, the arguments, the lonely nights, the gradual erosion of a young woman's sense of self. On impulse, Olivia called her real estate attorney. "I'd like to make an offer on a property," she said when he answered. "Cash purchase. Discreet transaction if possible." 2 weeks later, Olivia stood in the grand entrance hall of the Reynolds Mansion. No, her mansion now, watching as the last of the moving crew departed. The sale had proceeded with remarkable speed, her all-cash offer and willingness to close quickly appealing to Victoria, who was indeed planning a permanent move to the south of France. Olivia moved through the empty rooms, her footsteps echoing on the marble floors. Without the heavy antique furniture and dark draperies Nathan had preferred, the spaces felt larger, brighter, full of possibility. The mansion that had once intimidated her now awaited her vision. But what exactly would that vision be? She had purchased the property somewhat impulsively, driven by an instinct she didn't fully understand. Now, standing in the vast space that was entirely hers, Olivia realized she had no desire to live here herself. Her life was in the city, close to her business, surrounded by the energy that fueled her creativity. The answer came to her as she wandered into the mansion's east wing, with its row of guest suites overlooking the gardens. What if this place, which had once made her feel so small and constrained, could become a space where other women found their strength? A retreat center, perhaps, where women in transition, from divorce, career changes, personal loss, could find support and community while rebuilding their lives. The idea took shape rapidly, energizing her as she moved from room to room. The formal dining room could become a communal space for shared meals and conversations. The library would house resources on financial literacy, entrepreneurship, emotional well-being. The extensive grounds offered space for reflection and renewal. Within days, Olivia had assembled a team to transform the Reynolds Mansion into New Chapter House, a nonprofit retreat center specifically designed for women navigating major life transitions. The renovation would preserve the mansion's historic character while creating a warm, welcoming atmosphere far removed from the cold opulence of Nathan's era. As planning proceeded, Olivia received an unexpected call from her assistant. "Mr. Reynolds is on line 2, she said, sounding surprised. "He's asking to speak with you about the Hamptons property." Olivia hesitated only briefly before taking the call. "Nathan," she said, keeping her tone neutral, "what can I do for you?" "I understand you've purchased the Hamptons house," Nathan said, his voice carefully controlled. "Victoria's attorney informed me when the sale closed." "That's correct." A pause. "May I ask why?" It was a fair question. Olivia considered how to answer. "It represented something important to me," she said finally. "A full circle moment. You plan to live there?" Nathan sounded genuinely curious, rather than confrontational. "No, I'm converting it into a retreat center for women going through major life transitions. A place where they can rebuild after divorce, career setbacks, or other challenges." There was a long silence on the other end of the line. Then, unexpectedly, Nathan laughed. Not the sharp, dismissive laugh she had heard so often during their marriage, but something quieter, almost rueful. "Of course you are," he said, and she could almost picture him shaking his head, taking something I built and transforming it into something completely different. It's becoming your signature move. Olivia didn't rise to the bait. "Was there something specific you wanted to discuss about the property, Nathan?" Another pause. "There's a safe room behind the library paneling. The combination is 6, 8, 2, 4, 1. You'll find some family heirlooms that weren't included in Victoria's settlement. They should have gone to you years ago. This was surprising. Why tell me this now?" "Let's call it a belated act of decency," Nathan replied, his tone unreadable. "Goodbye, Olivia. I wish you well with your retreat center." The call ended before she could respond, leaving Olivia puzzled. Nathan Reynolds didn't do belated acts of decency without reason. Still, her curiosity was piqued. That weekend, she drove to the Hamptons mansion alone. Following Nathan's instructions, she located the concealed panel in the library and entered the combination. The hidden room was small but secure, containing a wall safe and several storage cabinets. Inside the safe, Olivia found a velvet jewelry box. Opening it, she gasped involuntarily. It contained her grandmother's diamond earrings and pearl necklace, family heirlooms she had brought into the marriage, and believed lost during the chaotic division of assets during the divorce. Nathan had claimed no knowledge of their whereabouts then, yet here they were, carefully preserved. Beside the jewelry box was a leather-bound photo album she had never seen before. Opening it, Olivia found pictures from the early days of their relationship, candid shots of a younger, more carefree version of herself, laughing at the camera, hiking in the mountains, painting on the mansion's terrace. Images from a time before she had learned to carefully manage her expressions to please her husband. The final page held a handwritten note on Reynolds Enterprises stationery. "These belong to you all along. Some things shouldn't be negotiated away, regardless of legal agreements. N.R." Olivia closed the album slowly, unexpectedly moved by this glimpse of a Nathan she had almost forgotten existed. A man capable, however fleetingly, of recognizing his own wrongdoing. The discovery strengthened her resolve to transform the mansion completely. The renovation proceeded through the summer, with Olivia deeply involved in every aspect of the design. Where Nathan had created spaces designed to impress and intimidate, she created rooms that invited conversation and reflection. The mansion's formal grandeur gave way to comfortable elegance, its imposing facade softened by climbing roses and welcoming pathways. By fall, New Chapter House was ready for its first residents, 8 women selected from dozens of applicants, each navigating her own life transition. The program Olivia had developed with therapists and financial advisors offered 2 months of supported living, with workshops on emotional resilience, financial independence, and personal reinvention. On the evening before the women's arrival, Olivia stood on the mansion's terrace watching the sunset over the Atlantic. The property that had once symbolized her confinement now represented possibility, not just for her, but for others facing similar crossroads. Her phone chimed with a text from Marcus. Chicago boutique quarterly numbers exceeded projections by 27%. International expansion on track for spring. Congratulations, boss. Olivia smiled at the message. Her business continued to thrive, expanding now into London and Paris. The Olivia Morgan collection had become known not just for its products, but for its philosophy. Authentic luxury that celebrated women as they were, not as society told them they should be. As darkness fell, Olivia walked through the mansion's rooms one last time before returning to the city. In the library, now stocked with books on personal growth, financial management, and women's memoirs, she paused before a framed quote she had chosen for the space. Sometimes the smallest step in the right direction ends up being the biggest step of your life. Those words had resonated with her during those first uncertain months after her divorce, when each decision to reclaim her identity had felt both terrifying and necessary. Now they would hopefully inspire other women beginning their own journeys of rediscovery. 6 months later, on a bright spring morning, Olivia stood behind the podium at the first New Chapter House graduation ceremony. Before her sat the inaugural cohort of women, their faces reflecting the confidence that comes from confronting difficult challenges and emerging stronger. "When I purchased this mansion," Olivia began, "many people assumed it was an act of revenge." The ex-wife triumphantly claiming her former husband's prized possession. She smiled. "But this was never about reclaiming something from my past. It was about creating something new for our collective future. Sinti," she gestured to the women seated before her. "Each of you came here carrying your own story of disruption and loss. You brought your pain, your uncertainty, your fear, but you also brought your courage, your resilience, and your willingness to begin again. And that's what this place is really about. Not endings, but beginnings." After the ceremony, as the graduates mingled on the lawn sharing contact information and future plans, Olivia received an unexpected visitor. A town car pulled up the driveway, and Nathan Reynolds emerged, looking slightly uncomfortable in casual attire rather than his usual business suit. Olivia excused herself from a conversation and walked across the lawn to meet him. "Nathan," she said, genuinely surprised, "what brings you here?" He glanced around at the gathering, taking in the transformed property. "Curiosity, I suppose. I wanted to see what you'd done with the place." Olivia studied him, noting the subtle changes in his appearance. He seemed thinner, the confident swagger somewhat diminished. According to Richard, who still provided occasional updates, Nathan had been forced to scale back his lifestyle significantly since the Renoir failure and divorce settlement. "Would you like a tour?" she offered, surprising herself with the invitation. Nathan hesitated, then nodded. As they walked through the mansion, Olivia explained the program and the philosophy behind New Chapter House. Nathan listened without comment, his expression unreadable as he observed how completely she had reimagined the spaces he had once controlled. In the sunroom, now a bright meditation space with comfortable cushions replacing the formal furniture, he finally spoke. "You've created something meaningful here, something I wouldn't have thought of." Coming from Nathan, this was significant acknowledgement. Olivia nodded, accepting the compliment without needing to elaborate. "I received an offer for Reynolds Enterprises last week," he continued, staring out at the ocean view. "A conglomerate looking to acquire my company and subsidiaries." This was surprising news. Nathan's company had been his identity for decades. "Are you considering it?" "I've accepted," he said simply. "The paperwork will be finalized next month." "What will you do?" Olivia asked, genuinely curious about how Nathan Reynolds would define himself without the business empire he had built. He shrugged slightly. "Travel, perhaps. Consulting, eventually. I'm not entirely sure yet." His gaze returned to her. "That's part of why I came today. I wanted to see how you did it, how you rebuilt after everything changed." The irony wasn't lost on Olivia. The man who had once seemed all-powerful, who had orchestrated her financial downfall during their divorce, was now looking to her as an example of resilience. "It wasn't easy," she said honestly, "but I discovered that starting over, while terrifying, also offers tremendous freedom. The freedom to decide who you really are when all the external markers of identity are stripped away." Nathan nodded slowly, absorbing her words. "I wasn't a good husband to you, Olivia. I see that now, for whatever it's worth." It wasn't quite an apology, but it was more self-awareness than she had ever expected from him. "We both contributed to the failure of our marriage," she replied, "but that's in the past now. We've both moved forward." They walked back to the lawn in companionable silence. As Nathan prepared to leave, he paused, looking back at the mansion with its new purpose and energy. "You know, when we divorced, I thought I was leaving you with nothing," he said quietly. "I never considered that nothing might be exactly what you needed to become this." He gestured vaguely, encompassing not just the property, but the confident, purposeful woman standing before him. "Sometimes we have to lose everything to discover what really matters," Olivia replied. "I wouldn't wish the pain of those days on anyone, but I'm grateful for the woman I became because of them." Nathan nodded, a flicker of something like regret crossing his features. "Goodbye, Olivia. I wish you well." "Goodbye, Nathan," she said simply. "I wish you well, too." As his car disappeared down the driveway, Olivia felt an unexpected sense of closure. The man who had once dominated her life, first as her husband, then as her antagonist, now seemed like a character from a story she had finished reading, important to her past, but no longer defining her present or future. 1 year later, Olivia stood on the balcony of her newly opened Paris boutique, watching shoppers stroll along the elegant street below. The international expansion of Olivia Morgan collection was proceeding smoothly, with the London location already established and Milan scheduled to open in the fall. Her phone chimed with a message from the director of New Chapter House. 3rd cohort graduation ceremony complete. 27 women now moving forward with new business ventures, careers, and living situations. Your vision continues to change lives. Olivia smiled, a deep sense of satisfaction warming her despite the crisp Parisian autumn air. The retreat center had expanded to accommodate more women, with a scholarship fund ensuring that financial constraints didn't prevent anyone from participating. Many graduates had gone on to start businesses of their own, creating a growing network of women supporting each other through life's transitions. Her assistant appeared at the balcony door. "Your 3 o'clock appointment is here, Ms. Morgan, the potential investor from Milano." "Thank you, Claire. I'll be right in." Olivia took one last moment to appreciate the view, the iconic Parisian architecture, the stylish pedestrians, the sense of history and possibility that permeated the air. From devastated ex-wife to international business owner and philanthropist, the journey had been challenging, often painful, but ultimately transformative. The limousine that Victoria had spotted that day, the sighting that had sparked Nathan's investigation and ultimately led to their renewed confrontation, seemed like an artifact from another lifetime. Yet it had been the catalyst for everything that followed. Nathan's attempt to destroy her business, her successful resistance, and eventually her complete reinvention of herself and her life's purpose. Sometimes the things meant to break us become the foundation for something stronger than we ever imagined possible. As Olivia turned to meet her next appointment, she carried that knowledge not as a burden of the past, but as the hard-won wisdom that would continue to guide her future. The woman she had become, resilient, purposeful, authentic, was no longer defined by her relationship to Nathan Reynolds or anyone else. She was simply, powerfully herself. And that, Olivia had discovered, was more than enough. It was everything. If you enjoyed the story, leave a like and subscribe to the channel. And drop a comment below. What city are you watching from? And if your heart tells you to, feel free to leave me a tip on Buy Me a Coffee. Just check the first pinned comment. Thanks for keeping me company and for the coffee, and I'll see you in the next story.